when a powerful CEO caught his maid secretly feeding his autistic son in the middle of the night. He almost fired her on the spot. To him, it looked like pure disobedience. But what he didn't know was that the woman he accused had just saved his child's life. Within hours, his entire world would flip upside down. His anger would turn into guilt, his pride into tears. Because sometimes, the people we look down on are the very ones God sends to protect what we love most. Ethan Walsh was the kind of man who believed money could fix anything. CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in New York, his days were packed with meetings, deals, and numbers, but never emotions. After his wife passed away 2 years ago, he buried himself in work, leaving behind the one person who needed him most, his 7-year-old son, Noah. Noah wasn't like other kids. He barely spoke, avoided eye contact, and spent hours lining up his toy cars in perfect symmetry. Doctors called it autism spectrum disorder. Ethan called it a problem he didn't know how to solve. Every nanny he hired quit within weeks. Noah wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep, wouldn't respond. The house that once echoed with laughter had turned into a quiet museum of guilt. That's when she showed up, Maria Alvarez, a middle-aged woman with gentle eyes and worn hands. She didn't have fancy degrees or a glowing resume, just a calm smile and a letter of recommendation from a local shelter. She doesn't talk much, but she listens, the agency had told him. Ethan barely looked up from his laptop when she arrived. The kitchen's that way. My son's room is upstairs. Keep things clean and quiet, he said coldly. Maria nodded. Yes, sir. I understand. From that day, Maria watched the rhythm of the house. She noticed the untouched meals, the silence in Noah's room, the loneliness that hung in the air like fog. Every morning, she knocked softly before entering. Good morning, Mr. Noah. May I open the curtains? No response, just a small nod. But that was enough for her. Days passed, and little by little, Maria began to learn Noah's world. The way he flinched at loud noises, the way he stared at the stars through his window every night, whispering words only he understood. When he refused to eat, she didn't scold him. She sat beside him quietly, cutting his food into tiny shapes, pretending they were planets orbiting his spoon. One night, Ethan came home late, as usual, exhausted and irritable. But what he saw through the half-open kitchen door stopped him cold. Maria was sitting on the floor beside Noah, feeding him soup, her voice soft as a lullaby. Noah, the boy who hadn't let anyone touch him in months, was smiling. Ethan's first reaction wasn't gratitude. It was fury. What the hell is going on here? He barked. The bowl froze in Maria's hand. Noah flinched, spilling soup on his pajamas. Sir, please, she whispered. He was hungry, but Ethan's voice thundered over hers. I gave strict instructions. No feeding outside scheduled hours. He had no idea that this was the night everything would change. Ethan's shout echoed through the marble halls, sharp enough to slice through the fragile peace of the night. Noah froze, trembling as if every vibration of his father's voice burned his skin. Maria quickly placed the bowl on the counter and crouched beside the boy, whispering, It's okay, Angel. You're safe. Don't be scared. Her calm tone only fueled Ethan's anger. Safe? You think defying my rules makes him safe. He stormed closer, his tie half undone, eyes wild from stress and sleepless nights. I hired you to clean, not to play nurse. Maria stood up slowly, her hands trembling but her gaze steady. With respect, sir, he hadn't eaten all day. He was shaking. You couldn't just follow my orders? Ethan snapped, cutting her off. You have no idea what's best for him. Noah whimpered, covering his ears. Maria knelt again, placing her hands over his. Sure, it's all right. It's not your fault. That single act, that quiet defiance, felt like a slap to Ethan's pride. For years, he told himself he was in control, that money, doctors, and strict schedules would fix his son. And now, this woman, this stranger, was standing between him and the one thing he thought he still had, authority. Get out, he said, his voice low but shaking. Sir, I said get out. You're fired. Noah looked up instantly, panic flashing across his eyes. No, It was the loudest sound Ethan had ever heard from him. The single word froze everyone in the room. Ethan blinked, unsure if he'd imagined it. "No," Noah repeated, tugging at Maria's sleeve. "Tina, stay." Maria's heart broke. She hadn't realized until that moment that the boy could speak. Ethan took a step back, his confidence cracking. "You he just talk?" Tears welled in Maria's eyes. "He talks when he feels safe, Mr. Walsh. That's all any child needs." Ethan looked at his son, his pale face, trembling hands, and those big eyes filled with fear, and for the first time, guilt replaced his anger. But pride was a stubborn master. He rubbed his temples. "You should leave for tonight," he muttered. "We'll discuss this in the morning." Maria nodded, gathered her things quietly, and left without another word. Noah watched her go from the window, clutching one of his toy cars to his chest. He waited by the door until the house fell silent, whispering to himself, "Tina, come back." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Maria's calm face, heard her words. He talks when he feels safe. Was he the reason his son had gone silent all these years? By morning, the guilt had turned into something heavier, shame. He walked into Noah's room, hoping to apologize, but found the bed empty. Panic shot through him. "Noah," he called out, running down the hall. Then he saw it, the back door, slightly open, and through it, Noah standing barefoot in the cold morning air, holding a small drawing. On the paper, two stick figures, one tall, one small, were holding hands under a smiling sun. And beneath it, in uneven letters, were the words, "Me and Tina." Ethan stood frozen at the doorway, the morning wind tugging at his shirt as he looked at his son's small frame. Noah's fingers were smudged with crayon marks, his hair sticking up, eyes fixed on the little drawing that fluttered in the breeze. "Noah," Ethan whispered, afraid to startle him. The boy turned, holding up the paper with shy pride. "Tina," he said softly, pointing at the smaller stick figure. Ethan knelt down, his throat tight. "You drew this?" Noah nodded. "She nice." Something broke inside him, quietly, painfully. His son hadn't said a full word to him in months, and now, the first name that came out of his mouth wasn't Daddy. It was the name of the woman he'd just sent away. Ethan took a slow breath. "Do you want her to come back?" "Yes," Noah whispered. "Tina makes stars." "Stars?" Ethan frowned in confusion. Noah's tiny hand pointed toward the kitchen window, where faint traces of glow-in-the-dark stickers shaped like stars dotted the glass. Ethan walked over, realizing they weren't there before. Maria must have put them up. She'd done it quietly, without asking, turning the dark kitchen into a sky his son could dream under. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something warm stir beneath his guilt. Hope. He spent the next hour calling the agency, trying to find her. "Maria Alvarez?" The receptionist said, scrolling through her files. "She's not with us anymore, sir. She left last month. Temporary placement only. Do you have an address?" "I'm sorry, we can't share that information." Ethan hung up, defeated. By noon, he sat in his office, staring at his reflection in the glass wall. A man who had everything and yet couldn't give the one thing that mattered most. Love. His assistant knocked softly. "Sir, the pediatric therapist is here for Noah's evaluation." "Reschedule," he said flatly. "But sir, I said reschedule." He grabbed his coat and left. For the first time, work didn't matter. Back home, he sat beside Noah, who was stacking toy cars in perfect order again. "Hey, buddy," Ethan said softly. "Tell me about Tina." Noah's eyes lit up. "Tina makes pancakes, sings song, smile big." Ethan swallowed hard. The details, so small and innocent, hit like lightning bolts of guilt. All the expensive therapists, the endless schedules, and yet this humble woman had reached his son in ways he never could. As evening fell, Ethan noticed Noah holding a folded napkin close to his chest. "What's that?" "Gift," Noah said simply, handing it to him. Ethan unfolded it, a paper napkin drawing of a heart with a line through the middle. Half was blue, half yellow. "What does it mean?" "Sad and happy," Noah murmured. Ethan stared at it for a long time. "Where did you get this?" "Tina give. Said every sad has happy inside." That was it. Ethan couldn't ignore it any longer. He had to find her. He made a few calls that night, starting with the shelter Maria's letter came from. After an hour of searching, a tired voice answered. "This is Saint Anne's Shelter." "Yes, I'm trying to locate Maria Alvarez. She worked for me recently, and I need to speak with her." "Oh, Maria," the woman said softly. "She volunteers here sometimes. Sweet lady. Always brings food for the kids." Ethan's heart lifted. "Do you know when she'll be back?" "Usually Sundays after church." It was Saturday night. He barely slept. By morning, he was parked outside the small brick church near the shelter. When the service ended, people trickled out one by one, until he saw her. Maria, wearing the same worn coat, carrying a bag of bread for donation. She froze when she saw him. "Mr. Walsh?" He nodded, guilt heavy in his chest. "I needed to see you." Her voice was polite but guarded. "Is Noah all right?" "He misses you," Ethan admitted. "He talked. Said your name." Maria's eyes widened. "He talked. Yes. Because of you." For the first time, her expression softened. "He has a beautiful soul, sir. He just needed someone to listen." Ethan exhaled. "Maria, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. I was wrong. I thought control meant protection. But I was just afraid. Afraid of losing him too." Maria placed the bag of bread down. "Fear makes us blind, Mr. Walsh. But love, that's what helps children see." He nodded slowly, his eyes wet. "Please come back. Not just as a maid. As someone who can help me be a father again." Maria hesitated, looking down. "I don't work for money, sir. I work for purpose. If you truly want to help Noah, you'll need to change how you see him. Not as a problem, but as a person." Ethan's voice cracked. "Then teach me." Maria's eyes filled with quiet compassion. "All right, but only if you promise one thing." "What's that?" "That you'll listen, not just to me, but to him." Ethan nodded firmly. "I promise." She smiled faintly. "Then let's go home." And just like that, for the first time in years, Ethan felt like the word home finally meant something again. When Maria returned to the Walsh mansion, the house seemed to breathe again. Noah, sitting by the window, dropped his toy the moment he saw her step out of Ethan's car. "Tina!" he cried, running barefoot across the hallway before anyone could stop him. Ethan froze mid-step as his son flung his tiny arms around Maria's waist, laughing. A sound so pure, so alive, it brought tears to the man's eyes. Maria bent down and hugged the boy gently. "I missed you, little star," she whispered. Noah pulled back, smiling. "Tina back." "Yes, sweetheart. Tina's back." From that day forward, things began to change. Every morning, the house echoed with soft music instead of silence. The smell of pancakes replaced the sterile aroma of air freshener. Maria didn't just clean, she brought warmth back into every corner. Ethan started coming home early, not because he had less work, but because for the first time in years, he wanted to. He'd sit at the kitchen counter, pretending to read emails while secretly watching Maria and Noah. The boy would hum quietly as she drew shapes on the table with pancake syrup, stars, hearts, tiny rockets. "Rocket go moon." Noah would cheer. "And who's flying it?" Maria would ask. "Noah and Tina," he'd beam. And Ethan would smile, something he hadn't done in a long, long time. But the deeper his gratitude grew, the heavier his guilt became. Every time he looked at Maria, he remembered the way he'd shouted at her, the way he'd made her feel small. She had every right to hate him. Yet she didn't. She just kept showing up, patient, calm, steady, like sunlight through a storm. One evening, after dinner, Ethan decided to finally say what had been building in his heart. "Maria," he began, nervously adjusting his sleeves, "I need to ask you something." She turned, drying her hands with a towel. "Of course, sir." He hesitated. "Why did you take this job? You could have found something easier, somewhere you wouldn't have to deal with people like me." Maria smiled faintly. "Because this house reminded me of someone I lost." Ethan frowned. "Someone you lost?" She nodded slowly. "My son, Mateo. He was 10. He had autism too. He passed away 5 years ago in an accident. Since then, I promised myself that if I ever met another child like him, I'd do what I couldn't do for my own, make him feel seen." The room fell silent. Ethan's throat closed up. "Maria, I had no idea. You weren't supposed to, she said softly. You were grieving too, Mr. Walsh. But you didn't grieve with your son. You grieved through him. Her words hit him like a truth he'd been running from. He looked down, his voice breaking. I thought, if I kept control, I wouldn't lose him. I was so scared to love him wrong. Maria stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. There's no wrong way to love a child. The only mistake is not loving at all. Ethan exhaled shakily, tears burning his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. Don't thank me, Maria said. Just promise me one thing, that you'll never stop talking to him. Even when he doesn't answer, keep talking. He hears every word. He nodded slowly. I promise. The next few weeks became a transformation. Ethan took Noah to the park, the zoo, even to the office one day. He learned that his son liked the sound of rain but hated thunder, that he could recite planets in order, and that he laughed hardest when Ethan pretended to forget Mercury. It was messy, unpredictable, and beautiful. But not everyone was happy. One Friday afternoon, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. Out stepped Victoria, Ethan's late wife's sister, a woman of poise, elegance, and an ego sharp enough to cut glass. Ethan, she said, stepping inside without invitation, we need to talk. He sighed. What now, Victoria? I just came from Noah's school, she said coldly. They told me he's being looked after by a maid. Is that true? She's more than that, Ethan said firmly. Oh, please. I warned you about letting strangers in. You don't even know her background. Actually, Ethan interrupted, I know her better than most people I've met in years. Victoria's lips tightened. You're blinded by guilt. That woman is manipulating you. Before Ethan could respond, Noah ran into the room holding a paper rocket. Aunt Vicky, look, she frowned, stepping back. Noah, not now, darling. Adults are talking. The boy's smile faded instantly. Maria, who had been standing by the doorway, walked over and knelt beside him. It's okay, sweetheart. Go finish your drawing. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Excuse me, but you don't tell my nephew what to do. Maria straightened calmly. I wasn't. I was comforting him. That's exactly what I mean. Victoria snapped. You're overstepping your place. You're a maid, not family. Before Ethan could speak, a small voice interrupted, quiet but clear. No, Noah said. Everyone turned. He was standing there, fists clenched, tears welling in his eyes. Tina family. The silence that followed was electric. Victoria blinked in shock. What did he just say? Ethan smiled through tears. He said what I've been too afraid to admit. He looked at Maria. She is family. Victoria scoffed. You've lost your mind. Maybe, Ethan replied, stepping closer. But for the first time, it's because I finally found my heart. Victoria grabbed her purse, furious. You'll regret this, Ethan. You can't just replace. He cut her off. I'm not replacing anyone. I'm rebuilding what I destroyed. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Maria looked down, visibly shaken. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Ethan shook his head. You didn't cause it. You fixed it. Noah tugged Maria's sleeve and whispered, Tina stay forever? Maria knelt, eyes full of tears. As long as you want me, little star. Ethan watched them, his son and the woman who had quietly healed both their hearts, and realized something profound. Sometimes, the people who enter your life to clean your house end up cleaning your soul. Weeks turned into months, and the Walsh mansion no longer felt like a museum of silence. It had laughter again, small, soft, imperfect laughter, the kind that healed old wounds. Ethan changed more than anyone expected. The man who once measured life in profit and loss began measuring it in smiles and minutes spent on the floor building Lego towers with his son. He even traded his luxury office desk for a small drawing corner where Noah could sit and doodle while he worked. One evening, as the golden light poured through the kitchen window, Maria stood by the sink, watching them play. Noah was teaching his father how to say the planets in order, again. Ethan kept messing them up on purpose, just to make the boy laugh. Wait, Ethan said, pretending to think hard. Was it Mercury, then Mars? Or was it Mars, then pizza? Noah burst into laughter so loud that Maria's heart felt full again. When the laughter faded, Ethan looked up. Maria, he said softly, You've done more for us than I can ever repay. You already have, she smiled. You became a father again. He walked over, emotion heavy in his voice. I used to think success meant building something that outlives you. Now I realize it's raising someone who remembers you with love. Maria nodded. Then you're already successful. Noah tugged Ethan's sleeve. Tina, Daddy, come see. He ran to the window, pointing outside where he had taped his newest drawing, 3 stick figures under a big yellow sun. Over their heads, written in uneven letters, my family. Ethan and Maria exchanged a look that said more than words ever could. That night, after Noah fell asleep, Ethan stood by his son's door, watching him breathe softly under the star stickers Maria had placed months ago. For the first time, he didn't feel alone. He whispered, "Thank you, Maria, for bringing light back into my world." From behind him, her quiet voice replied, "No, sir, it was already there. You just needed someone to remind you to look up." The stars on the window glowed faintly in the dark, reflecting on their faces like tiny promises. Because sometimes the richest people in the world are the ones who finally learn what love truly costs and how beautiful it feels when it's free.